You share my concern at home about fundamentalism and the need to make it a top priority.
Chris, not only do I share it, I think you remember in the Trump first term, it was Stephen Miller and myself working with the president that had the travel ban to stop all the radical assaults we'd had during Obama's administration. And we didn't have one radical terror attack driven by radical Islam. And I'm pretty sure President Trump's full 4 years. President Trump just got back from the Middle East. One of the key components over there is to talk about ending terror financing and how you got to deal with extremism. I'm glad you're a convert, but you're converting to one of MAGA's top priorities.
No, I'm no convert.
Which is stopping radical Islamist attacks. What you're seeing
Steve,
is a merger. Yeah,
Steve, hold on a second. Hold on a second, because this matters to me too much. I lost too many of my friends and people on 9/11 for you to call me a convert, okay? I went over there and covered it in Iraq and Afghanistan and in Pakistan. I'm no freaking convert, okay? What I'm telling you is when I hear other domestic agenda issues being brought up as more pressing as a security threat than this, it bothers me. That's what I'm talking about. So I'm not a convert. I just want this to be converted to be a main concern, and it isn't right now. That's my point.
Certainly a convert. Where were you at CNN when we did the travel ban to make sure there was better screening coming from countries so that we didn't have radical jihadists come here? And President Trump took all the levels. I missed CNN and particularly your show having our back. In fact, I think you were going after us every night. You are a recent convert. President Trump shut down.
I am not a recent convert, and I'll tell you what I didn't like about your ban is that it failed.
That it worked?
No, it didn't work because it was stopped. And the reason it was stopped is because you can't ban all Muslims from every place that you don't like.
We didn't.
Yeah, of course you did. That was the initial plan, and then you changed it, Steve.
And the only thing we changed, I think we took
So you did change it.
President, we went because General Mattis said, hey, the Iraqis have some sort of modicum of system and they're helping us with the war to take down the caliphate, the physical caliphate. The Supreme Court backed us up. President Trump essentially shut down. I don't believe we had one radical Islamic jihadist attack in his whole 4 years. He's got the same team. He's doing the exact same. That's not lack of a priority. You just mentioned CARE. There's a movement, Stefanik and Marco Rubio and others were moving forward. We're trying to designate CARE as a terrorist organization, which the UAE has done. They're not a civil rights organization. How can you sit there and call them a civil rights organization? UAE has already designated them as a terrorist organization. The Holy Land trial said inside that they were a terrorist organization, just like the Muslim Brotherhood. Have our support. If you're serious about this, back us up in trying to designate the Muslim Brotherhood as a terrorist organization, just like the cartels. Back us up in trying to get CARE as a terrorist organization, not putting
Why hasn't Trump done it? Why hasn't Trump done it?
Hang on. We tried in the first administration to make the Muslim Brotherhood, and we failed because of the deep state and the apparatus of the administrative state shut us down.
You're making excuses, Steve. You've got the power. If he wants to do it, why doesn't he do it by executive order?
By the way, he just came back from the Middle East. One of the big topics over there was how prosperity.
Steve, you can't have it both ways, brother. I'm happy to have you on the show. But if you say help us make it do it by executive order. That's how you designate somebody a terror organization.
Chris, are you actually sitting there and saying that President Trump hasn't put radical Islam and shutting down radical Islam as one of his top priorities? It's the reason that you have actually so few attacks. There are attacks out there, don't get me wrong, and you saw this attack was from somebody who overstayed his visa.
More than anything else.
You can do
more than
both,
anything
Chris.
else.
Chris, you can do both.
I do understand you can do both. But, you know, I don't see people doing both. I don't see this administration doing anything more than one thing at a time and doing it very scattershot. And I just wonder why you don't go all in on this issue when I think it could be what the president says he wants most, which is a unifying issue. What's more unifying than protecting the homeland against extreme Islamism?
When you say unifying, have you checked with this thing called the Democratic Party? They're not interested in going after radical jihadists at all. The whole red-green merger, which is radical Islam working with these neo-Marxists, as much as they disagree with each other on fundamental things, their number one thing is to take down the Judeo-Christian West. That's what you see in all these universities. This is what President Trump.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.